All right, man, let's get into it. Thank y'all for coming through again. Let's get into this. Question asked by a subscriber, but it wasn't. It turned out that being the actual question at the end of what he was actually talking about, but we have to go through what led to the actual question itself. All right. There is such a thing of living vicariously through somebody, and then there is such a thing of failing vicariously through somebody. No one ever talks about failing vicariously through other people that you already know that are failures. Period. So I get an email from this individual. Kind of need some career advice. You think it's career advice, but then it turns out that the actual advice that they need is leave this stuff TF alone advice. That's not based on career, because most of the problems that the person was having job wise was based on the simple fact that he thought that he could practice some of this online stuff in places that he shouldn't have practiced around, especially in a small ass town. You talk to the wrong person, I'm talking about somebody's wife or somebody's significant other, you could be in some serious ass trouble. You probably have to leave town to get up out of that shit. Hold on a second. What's going on, Super Slash? 75? Thanks for the $5 super chat. Been a minute. Good tidings. Yeah, hold on a second. Is it still low? I'm not sure why it's low. I'm standing in front of the laptop. Unless there's a port on here where the sound comes through and I can't see it. But anyway. So you're going through the advice and you be like, you know what? All these things are predictable things that you could just leave alone, man. Like, I'm like, okay. So, because when people need help, I want to go through the story of how they got to where they are. So I asked for the story. Okay, so he was 18 years old. What happened at that point? It's going down black. It's going Terrence B. So I'm like, all right. So it's 18 years old because he's like 20 something years old. I think like 22, 23. So okay, so take me about what happened when you graduated high school. Okay, well I did this right here, and how did that fall apart? Well, blah 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 blah, and then I moved here for these reasons. And I'm like, all right, let's stop right here. You mean to tell me that you messed up a completely good situation that you was in? And you decided to move to another situation that you thought that was going to help. And that was the story. That was the story. From that situation, it was one burning fire from one burning building to another. He's like, he left a burning building that was on fire, went into this building, started a fire in that building. That building then went up in smoke. Then he went over to another place, that type of building. I'm like, dude, you're going to have to stay in one spot and invest for a while. Because he wanted to hurry up and have the mind state of change and thought that change was going to be overnight once he had the mind state of change. But that's not how it works. It's like, bro, listen, You're going to have this mind state a long ass time before it actually pays off. And all the bullets that you dodge and that you miss, you're not even going to know about it until you see these type of failures in other people's lives. So it's like, look, you tried to make all these other situations work, going from situation to situation, and none of the stuff worked out. Dude, it's obvious. I mean, you can put it on a bar graph where this guy's going to end up at. So then, we're talking, and back and forth, and all of a sudden, here we go with this relationship nonsense, goofiness. Then you find out why this dude was in the situation that he was in. The burning building that he was going from and setting another fire had to do with tracking and tracing a woman in different spots that he should have just stayed out of. Let's call him self-provider. Now, he left that out of the conversation, but he brought it back up when we started, going in to try to fix stuff, and it kind of slipped out that this is what he was actually doing. So as much as I travel across the country, well, not right now because, it's still snowing and shit, but you have to realize that the everyday brother is going through stuff that they don't need to go through. Most men are actually converting bachelors because there's something wrong with the inventory. Something wrong with the inventory. There's nothing wrong with saying that there's something wrong with the inventory. Because working for a union, as Obsidian says he did, which I do believe in, which is something that people can get in very early and have a good outcome. That's a couple of union dudes around here. You got New, Shaka Nulu. You got Straight Shooter. You have other people who are in unions. And the great thing about being in a union, that if your ass get hurt on the job, you got protection. You can also move around a lot if you're with a union. It's kind of like the military. You take an assignment, you go to another place. So I was explaining to him how that worked. I'm like, did you know Obsidian was a union guy? He was like, oh, yeah. He kept bringing up. I'm like, yeah, but do you know the power of being in an organization like that where you got protection from having to need to run from place to place all the time? He's like, yeah. All right. So I'm like, dude, listen, you got to have skills and abilities. So that way you don't end up like the everyday brother. The everyday brother ain't doing very well out here, man. I travel a lot. A lot of these everyday brothers are the people who are homeless. A lot of everyday brothers are going through stuff right now that they don't need to go through. The everyday brother is just trying to secure him some in-house, man. That's all. And they're willing to go through anything on the planet to get it. And I had to bring it up to him, kind of like, once you get your stuff together, all that stuff is going to fall into place anyway. Unless you want to be one of these everyday brothers who want to think that they about to get their swag on and all this kind of stuff through these guaranteed consequences out here. That's what the everyday brother is actually going through. Stuff that they don't need to go through. And even if the everyday brother is still productive, he still wants to spend his time and his dime with people who don't give a damn about them. The everyday brother is willing to be used by women and other people within the environment just to stay around, just to keep their associations high around people who don't like you. Overall, the everyday brother do have self-esteem issues because they don't see themselves as man enough unless they got some guaranteed circumstances and consequences that they can stay away from. That's what the everyday brother is actually going through out here. But not all everyday brothers are created equal. Going to the military, you see a lot of people who cycle in and out of that situation. And the everyday brother means something quite differently depending on what type of circumstance that your ass is in. Like this guy's everyday brother problem was chasing the wrong type of women, not being involved with the productivity piece, not being very disciplined, and moving into situations that he shouldn't be in on the behest of trying to impress some chick temporarily. They end up leaving his ass anyway. The everyday brothers just trying to make situations work that they shouldn't try to make work. The everyday brother is in a marriage that they ain't supposed to be in, just to keep them some in house. That's what the everyday brother is doing. Most of these dudes who are highly productive, they still fall victim to the everyday brother problems, man. The whole manosphere is full of dudes having problems with one specific thing. You don't want everyday brother problems, man. Because them everyday brother problems can cause your ass a lifetime of hell. And all roads lead back to the damn community. Through in-house or holding your tongue when nonsense is there. Like the everyday brother don't even know anything about basic peace. Securing basic peace for themselves. The everyday brother don't know about that shit. I go back home and I see what everyday brothers have done when they stayed their ass in circumstances that they shouldn't have stayed in. They stayed a summer too long, 2 summers too long, 5 summers too long. A lot of those people went to Memphis, went to Atlanta, went to Dallas, went to other places, and when they fell out in those other places where they had to exhibit a level of some type of discipline, they washed their ass right back down into the South where nothing was at stake. That's what the everyday brother was actually going through. Remember, most of these dudes want to end up with these type of counterparts anyway. There's a very high percentage of them. That's what the everyday brother's doing. The everyday brother isn't on YouTube talking about older expired women that don't nobody want and can't nobody date. And you don't want to get your stuff together to go produce for any of those women that he's talking about anyway. Well, he is correct about something. And his arguments are basically right. But it's just that what this person thought he was going to do is he was going to pace his level of progression based on the people that he was listening to. So if he kept listening to the wrong people and not making any type of progression because they weren't, he was going to be kind of okay with where they currently are. And I'm like, dude, listen, that guy's position ain't your position. That guy's retired. He turns on the internet and he does this. No one's going to respect you as a 20-something-year-old dude trying to follow this line of career field path. It's not going to work for you. It may seem easy, and it is easy, but you have to still live your own life. You can't fail vicariously through these people and then blame these content creators because you ain't got your shit together or straight, or they should change their arguments and talking points and shit. Dude, listen. Listen, man. So meanwhile, I'm explaining Obsidian's situation, and I keep like drilling into his head that you don't need to be an everyday brother. Okay? You don't need this redemption story. All right? You don't need to be recovering from shit for years on end. You could just go straight to the skills and straight to the money. You could double back and get all this stuff later. Because trust me, they notice you even more when you got something that they want. I don't think Obsidian's condition is the condition of the everyday brother. I think the everyday brother's condition is way worse. Yeah, the everyday brother's condition is way worse. I don't want to be an everyday brother. I don't want to hang out with everyday brothers. I don't want to even be around that shit no more. That shit is too depressing, man. When I go to places and I see these homeless ass black men with signs out and shit looking crazy. Just in Indianapolis the other day, looking at this dude looking straight up crazy out there, acting a fool with a goddamn sign. That was an everyday brother. Paid him $20, sat down, listened to the story. Everything was about a bitch. Everything was. This dude had nothing to his name. He was still trying to holler at a bitch. Paid for the story about this guy. Everything that he messed up in his life, he messed it up over a woman that he could have left alone. Yeah, man. Everyday brothers ain't something that you want to be. Everyday brothers are not on YouTube. Everyday brothers are suffering the consequences from predictable things. Everyday brothers are trying to make stuff work that shouldn't be working. So when you call yourself an everyday brother, you kind of give yourself permission to fail and not really move on to better things. That's what I mean by failing vicariously through somebody. Not really living up to your true potential because nobody else is doing the shit that they need to be doing. I seen this shit in Milwaukee the last time I was up there. But like I said, everyday brother is actually different in every environment. And you can hide this shit behind some statistics and all that kind of stuff, but most of these dudes are suffering the consequences. Most of these dudes are waiting on a woman to give up her power that she's been given to the federal government by shooting kids into her and hoping for the best and complaining to everybody else on the planet when it don't go wrong. That's what the everyday brother is going through. The everyday brother is actually going through this child support shit. The everyday brother is. There's only it's very rare that men are not actually going through these deliberate circumstances. It's very rare that they're not going through it. It's very rare. But the everyday dude is still having the consequences and still trying to holler at other women to get in the same shit. The everyday dude think that they got enough game and swag so that way they can get past this shit. That's what the everyday brother is doing. The everyday brother cannot be Obsidian. We got the stats to prove it. No, man, the everyday brother is out here. I know I got a lot of family there. I own some property there too. Nah, man. Nah, man. Like, dude, we got to stop. We got to stop this nonsense about being not acclimated to the environment itself. Because not being acclimated to the environment and finding all these alternative ways and means to actually get paid within the environment itself, that's what makes you an everyday brother doing some stupid ass shit like that. That's what the everyday brother is doing. You get a business card from one of these dudes, man. Bro, it's like 10 things on this business card. Like, man, what the fuck do you actually do, man? There's 10 things on here. Mind scattered, going everywhere. Thinking that, because the everyday brother actually thinks that once this woman gets her shit together and respects them, even though they don't bring shit to the goddamn table, that's when their life gonna pop. Most men actually think that shit, especially in this culture. Most of these everyday brothers are pretending like they this big bad dude who got everything under control in their household, but they crying like a motherfucker once that live stream turn off, man. They're catching straight hell behind them doors, man. They have no moment to themselves. They don't even know what peace is. Well, I don't think that that's true. What's going on, Tommy? I think that that's what the majority of these men are here. Like the space is going to reflect what is the majority of men inside the environment itself, right? And they can only put forth a message that actually resonates with most people. So if most dudes think that they got this woman under control and everybody wants to listen to that type of content, then the majority of people is probably on that, man. On average. On average. On average, they're trying to listen to anybody who could possibly potentially give them a leg up on this person that they're trying to get access to. That's what actually the everyday brother's trying to do. I don't think the everyday brother got access to their kids. I don't think the everyday brother got even control over their household. Not fully, not with the finances. I just don't think that. So the everyday brother that Obsidian is, that's not the everyday brother condition out here. The everyday brother condition is way worse. They could be financially ahead, but they're socially behind because they're dealing with guaranteed consequences of things that shouldn't even be happening. I can't tell you that the amount of people that you actually run into across the country, they still got the same problems, man. Same problems. Waiting on somebody else not to let them catch hell. When they knew damn well that they knew multitudes of people who went through the same situation and it didn't work out for them either. Obsidian is in a good position though. But that's not the everyday brother's position. The everyday brother isn't in that type of position. Not that way. No. But this guy kind of got mad at Obsidian because Obsidian wouldn't scale his content. I'm like, That's not a Sidian's problem, man. Like, bro, he's basically right about every. Like, dude, he provided you all of the information that you needed to make a good ass decision to leave this stuff alone, and they still didn't do it. Still didn't do it. Yeah, man. Like, you don't need to be going to the fire like that, man. Like, dude, you got to create a culture of success yourself. I know most people haven't seen it. I haven't seen it myself either. My father died very young, and my grandfather died shortly after that. Most of my uncles moved way away from all that shit because they couldn't be around the family because they were just too messed up. So most of the everyday brothers I was seeing in my situation were dudes that I didn't want even want to be like. My older brother was hanging around these dudes because they all smoke weed and shit. That's what the everyday brother was doing. Barely producing, just enough to give him some in-house and a little bit of weed to smoke. That's what the everyday brother was doing in Denver, man. You're right, straight shooter. It doesn't matter now. And it's quite okay for people to fail, and you need to look at this stuff, man. But don't fail vicariously through people because you don't believe in enough of yourself to dodge these consequences. You don't feel enough of a human being unless somebody is benefiting off of you. That's what the everyday brother does. That's some sad, sick, depressing thing, man. Like, you don't, and and it's not even lowest common denominator stuff, because the lowest common denominator stuff are the people who actually believe in this hustle nonsense and sit back and let things happen nonsense and not really speak up in environments and all that kind of stuff. That's for the lowest of the low. The dudes who are barely productive, but they will screw somebody else over in a heartbeat. But most of these dudes are not in a good position. That's why they always talk about women, so that way they can bring the focus off the thing that they're not doing to focus on what the woman's doing. On some Timmy did it too shit. I keep saying, man, your job is the productivity piece and keeping it away from people that don't respect you. But the everyday brother, they want to get the productivity piece and go hard charging right back into those clubs, right back into the community, right back up to these bus stops trying to pick up bitches and all this old stupid ass shit. Yeah, that's what the everyday brother's doing out here. It was for me too, man. It's cool as shit being on the East Coast 1 minute and 2 days later you're in Denver, and 2 days later from that you're in Idaho. Then a day after that you're in Portland. Man, it's great. The reason why it's good, Vanna Black, is because you're at work and you have time to think things through. That's what I think most men actually need. Time enough to think things through, time enough to plan stuff out. Because a lot of people just get into these situations so fast and they don't understand that the actual consequences come just as fast as you came up with that dumbass idea. Thinking that you too slick for the consequences, even though You see the other stuff that other people been through. That's what the everyday brother's doing. You actually see homeless people pay for the story. Pay for the story. If you're gonna give them money, I want to talk to you about the story. I want to talk to you about how you got here. And you will see one way or another, the primary thing that got them where they was the wrong type of woman. They didn't have one itis on a person. They had one itis on a culture. One itis on a culture of people, subsegment of people that you could have left alone, but you made this where you wanted to be in life, man. Like if I counted on my hand how many people going through this shit, like if I just use the community where I grew up at, and I counted how many people actually dodged this child support shit because they dealt with the wrong people. It's only a couple of people. I mean, out of 30 people, I think maybe 2 people outside of me completely dodged that bullet altogether. The grand majority of those dudes walk right into deliberate consequences that they could have stayed away from. Man, look, I wish the everyday brother could be retired. I wish that was the case. They're dealing with the fallout of the actual uncultured person that they should have stayed away from. That's part of the everyday brother condition. But the retirement piece, based off the productivity piece, the everyday dude ain't there, man. Would I like them to be there? Yeah. But even if they do get there, the majority of these dudes are going to be dealing with the type of personnel within the environment that is not going to help them out at all. That's why I rather the everyday brother not even be productive. Period. Even though a lot of these dudes do have their stuff together, man, but the everyday brother, he really don't have it together like that, man. We're talking about average. We talk about average. We know over 50% of these dudes are not married. That's not something that men can actually fix. Men actually want to be in these relationships and secure them some in-house, especially they can have it on a one-to-one basis. This is why when they go other places, they do usually close on the first thing that they get a hold of, regardless of how she looks or acts, for the most part. Look at your own personal circles. Look at how big it is and the wide range of where people are within that circle. Think about how many people. Let's say you got 10 people. How many of these 10 people are going to be left? How many people out of those 10 people that you know of that you're around every day make at least $50,000 a year? How many of those people have a secure means of actual employment? How many people there has either owned a home or is in a position to buy a house? How many people have kids? How many people who you have left? The majority of those things people don't have. But the majority of people do have kids, even though they don't have all of those things that I just named. The majority of those people can't even produce or invest within themselves because they made the wrong decision on who they had watching their back. The everyday brother falls into those type of traps all the time. Now ask yourself, do you want to be the everyday brother? I'm not talking about the obsidian situation. The situation is pretty good. Do you want to be the everyday brother? The answer is no. You shouldn't want to be the everyday brother. You ain't got time to be the everyday brother. You don't have time for that. It's 2022. The obsolete men are still going to try to loop the conversation back to women, but focusing on women that got shit to do with what you're supposed to be doing as a dude. What's going on with you, Taylor? And this is not a diss to Obsidian. It's explaining to you that Obsidian is in a very secure position that most men are not at. Because they fall into everyday brother circumstances that they can stay the hell away from. Don't believe me? Take your ass to the family court. There's a whole bunch of everyday brothers who getting their ass towed up by the child support system. Not really having access to their kids like that and shit. You ain't got time to be the everyday brother, man. And in fact, if you end up in any of these circumstances that I said, that there's something that you don't need to be going through. It's time for you not to have experience with these failed propositions. It's time for you to set that as a cultural milestone for yourself. These older individuals have to talk about women so that way they can make it okay, steer you into the deliberate failure. Because what is missing from the talking about women conversation is, where do you find these individuals that don't have this background that is normally covered within the Black sector of YouTube? Like, where do you find these individuals that don't have this type of background? Who was the group of people within these group of people who raised these type of individuals to be just as invested in your success or the success of a family overall than you are? Where do you find these individuals? You don't find them through game. You find them through circumstance whenever you get your stuff together. Now, you use game when you want to feed yourself into some nonsense that your ass ain't supposed to be into. Like, you can't game a roulette wheel. It's either you betting on white or black or betting on a number where that stuff is really most likely not going to happen. A lot of these people mess their life up trying to live out this failed blackmail fantasy of this fan fiction Goldie the Mac bullshit, man. They be with decent human beings and then they turn around and be on some damn bullshit and end up messing up their whole damn life, and then they end up blaming the woman for the shit. Yeah, that's a lot of everyday brothers who fuck shit up like that too. A lot more than we would like to think. But yeah, that happens. How is that most of these people can come to this country and make themselves into great people? Why? Them dudes ain't trying to be everyday brothers when they come here. Them dudes see the black condition and they're like, look, man, we got to learn everything that we got to learn and we got to get to the money right away. What do we need to do? You don't see Arabs and Indians out there congregating and doing all this type of foolish ass shit. Not on average. You don't. Like most of these situations and circumstances that you are in are based on everyday brother shit that you don't need to be associated with. You need to be bothered with. Who is Max Julian? I don't even know who that is. Oh, the dude who played Goldie the Mac. Oh shit. Yeah, that's what's up, man. That's what's up. It's time for us to have some different outcomes, man. That's not based on a woman holding you back from shit. And I don't give a fuck if she is holding you back from shit. You got to not put yourself in these type of situations going forward, man. I know. I know I'm heavy in those circles and I know what these people talk about. It's time to have some different outcomes, man. Like the everyday brother need to be raised to the level to where we competing with other groups of people within the United States. But you got to be better individuals first before you start coming together as a group. Because once you start coming together as a group without your shit together, all these below average people tend to weigh down the entire ticket and we can't really go nowhere. Just like how most people trying to hold down the conversation or try to center it around women versus actual progress, or trying to make it look like they give a shit about black boys without no way to help the actual black boys themselves. Black boys are not going to be helped through the relationship conversation. And everybody's trying to get live off our problems and shit. That's not helping black boys. Like, you can't put together a conversation where you can't manage a goddamn panel and then turn around and claim that you give a fuck about black boys all of a sudden. If you ain't got your own shit straight, there ain't no way in the hell you can help anybody else, whether they deserve it or not. You gotta get this shit out of your head, man, that you're gonna be an everyday brother, man. Bro, listen. Ain't nobody going through that shit, man. They think these people dumb as fuck going through this shit. You don't need to go through it. You're not gonna have time to be online trying to argue with feminists that you claim that you don't like. If you don't like them, then you don't focus on them. How simple is that? There's no way you're going to be able to out useless a feminist. Her talking points are dead. I mean, nobody's really paying attention to her, except for the men. Men give these women airplay. all day. That's why it's good to have good outcomes. Can that be the everyday brother? 2022, people pick up a skill, people leave this nonsense alone because everybody's trying to hold the actual black experience around deliberately dealing with nonsense that you don't need to. No, I mean, he said it out of his own mouth. So, I mean, it's not like it's secret and don't nobody know. Well, this guy didn't know because he thought that he was going to scale his life with the actual content creator that he was listening to. But this is why you got to have an end goal in mind and knowing what somebody else's end goal is before you actually get started on getting yourself attached to these people, me included. But these people are just going to keep turning around and trying to hold the cultural narrative around dealing with predictable things. You don't need to deal with this type of stuff, man. Because you're not going to be able to follow Obsidian's path to be the type of everyday brother that he is. You're not even going to be able to follow my path to get to where I am. You can get to where I am in 5 or 6 years of focus. You're not going to need to go through all the things that I went through to get to where I am now. These paths are so clear right now. They were never clear before because, older individuals didn't share the information. They didn't share it with me either. Most of the stuff I had to figure out on my own. Most of these people, without anything to do, is going to try to surround themselves with endless pleasure, man. They're going to do it. And then they're going to come here to YouTube to actually complain about the shit. That's the difference between talking about things and problem solving versus complaining and doing the same shit over and over again. It doesn't take a whole lot of skill to talk about the same shit every day. It don't take any skill for that. You can set up a Google alert and you could be fed all these bullshit ass stories all throughout the country. Not a problem. Yeah, I believe. You really think you can invest in yourself when you got those type of circumstances going on? And here's the thing. There was more than one dude, and there was a great percentage of the dudes who listened to that shit. Like a lot of this stuff I can't listen to because it's just not my life, man. I don't want to know what it feels like to give my money up to a child that I'm not raising or I don't have any control over. I'm not going through that. The everyday brother is not politically organized. They're not politically organized for shit. We still waiting on the women to actually give over their shit to the actual dudes. So that way, most of these dudes think that they're just going to take their movement away from them. It don't work that way. They reward the people who show up on their side. I've never seen so many so-called conservative men actually trying to make their money off of this liberal goddamn woman. I've never seen it. I've never seen a group of conservative men ever in my life actually trying to talk down to men and actually trying to have conversations from the woman's point of view and shit, trying to get dudes invested in bad outcomes. There's a price to be paid for not being in an appropriate position. No, it's just that dead people join the manosphere. I don't think the manosphere is dead, man, because I don't think that the work's done. It's the voice has been drowned out by people who want to catch a quick buck or attention. That's the new currency right now. Attention for covering and doing stupid shit. Like that's the currency of the realm right now. Again, this is more about whether men's conditions at overall versus whether or not Obsidian is an everyday brother. Nah, man, you don't want to see what these everyday brothers are actually going through. You don't want to see that shit. That's what I'm saying. But you can't do that type of shit with most of these people here on average. They're looking at you like a lick if you did something like that. But to them, that's a cultural norm. Hell, even most of the dominant society ain't even doing what they're doing. You can get past this stuff, man. You just got to not set your sights too low. And stop thinking that being a sexual scavenger is going to actually help you with something. It's going to help you get these guaranteed consequences that these other dudes are experiencing out here. That's what I'm saying, man. I read about 20 books a month from Audible. You can do all this stuff. Once you start investing time into you and not really giving a damn about what other people think, you're going to be fine. That's why I've always said I don't even care about what women think because they don't run the household. I don't look to them for any type of opinion or none of that shit. That's some everyday brother shit, giving a shit about what women think. They have to because that's the end goal and that's who run them at the end of the day. This is how you know you're dealing with an everyday brother, right? Take the woman and the talking points about her and the stupid shit that she does within the environment. You take all of that off the table. What do these people have to talk about after you take the woman off the table? Once you take the woman off the table or take the woman out of these people's lives that they actually talk about every day, they have no access to this shit. Because people who have access to the actual woman, they don't talk this much about it. They have nothing to fucking talk about. And I'm not gonna lie, it is easy to talk about women. They do so much stupid ass shit. But it's not your job as a man to play Sports Center over a bitch. That's not your job, man. I understand that you want to talk to him, you want to interact with him and shit, but that's not gonna help you be on the things that you need to be on, man. So these people hulk out, jump on panels, not know what the fuck is going on. As long as they think they can get their shit off about women, they want to join the conversation and basically don't add shit even to it. That's what the everyday brother's doing, man. The everyday brother ain't really in Obsidian's condition, man. Obsidian is in a very high condition. Most of the everyday brother got fucking health problems and shit, man. No insurance, no life insurance. That's what the everyday brother's on, man. Just a cavalcade of circumstances and situations that we could have avoided, living up to a failed cultural narrative. That's what it is. Bleach report on the democracy. That's what it is, though, man. And you got a lot of older dudes up here keeping up a whole bunch of bullshit, too. I never seen so many liberal ass men who are not really invested or involved in anything, but expect everybody to do the heavy lifting for them. And that they're just going to take somebody's movement away from them and make it theirs. You're not going to mutiny somebody out of their political process, man. Like, that's not how that works. You got to build your own power out here. There's a way to have a parliamentary system. You have to build it within a democracy. That's how it works. You have to show up, participate, have some actual things that you actually want to do, and then go do it. Yeah, I agree with you. That's what's up, man. Good job, man. That's what I'm talking about, man. You got to get in tune with spending all your time and having it all taken up for yourself. I keep telling people, man, like these politicians are easy to buy. $10,000, $15,000. Hey, man, no, you can put a bill up there. I work for anything on the planet, but I'm not going to give you less consequences for dealing with this fucking woman. That's a non-fucking starter, man. But I will help you with some investment money into having jobs programs and shit like that. Yeah, I do that all day. Again, I want to help you get somewhere that's actually permanent, real permanent. But this everyday brother bullshit, boy, this shit is embarrassing, man. And it's not just a black thing. I see just as many white dudes and Latino dudes just as homeless in these same situations. I pay them for the story too. It's the same thing. Jumped out there, thought they were super fly, messed everything up, never really recovered from it. You ain't got time on the shot clock for that type of stuff, man. You don't. But it's 2022, man. It's 2022. And to talk about women and these black relationship issues, man, I have no respect for anybody going through this current bullshit. Or even would even steer themselves into this type of discussion matrix, man. It's crazy that people still go through this shit. There's really no reason for it. I'm telling you, the everyday brother is some shit that you don't want to go through. The everyday brother is on some redemption arc shit, predictable shit that they can stay away from. So with that said, let me get up out of here. Let me see if we can get on the road, man. So I want to thank you guys for coming through. I'm the man tomorrow. You guys have a really nice night. Peace. Don't be an everyday brother. You got to be way better than that in your life, man.